In this video, we have the pleasure of speaking with John Malott, who is the founder and chairman of Build Your Business. He has done many global organizations, built them to hundreds of millions of dollars, and also has helped thousands of people achieve financial freedom. Thank you for speaking with me today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. We finally connect. I'm excited to be on here.
Yeah, that's very good. Thank you. Thank you for taking the time. I think your story is very inspiring, and I think so. I want to start with that to kind of like let everybody know that's listening, kind of like who is John Malott and kind of like where you started, because where you are now is very impressive. So there's a significant gap. So tell us a little bit about your story.
All right. Well, who is John Malott? John Malott is an entrepreneur today, an unlikely entrepreneur, because I don't have all the things that society says or suggests you should have to be successful. I don't have a college degree. I don't even have a high school diploma. And you know how society has a way of putting people in boxes, color of skin, gender, in my case, lack of education. I ended up doing exactly, what society expected from a 10th grade dropout. I found myself working over at the General Electric plant as a custodial engineer. Of course, I had a title. Yeah, I was a janitor, man. I was scrubbing another man's toilets. I was working paycheck to paycheck, just really struggling to keep up with the big mouth promises I made to family, friends, and bill collectors. I was getting nowhere very, very fast. And a lot of that stemmed from, as a young person, my first felony arrest. I was 15 years old. Found myself incarcerated, at 15, and that was the beginning of a lot of challenges in my life. So I was incarcerated at 15, and when I was finally released from the juvenile detention facility, something we now know today as the crack epidemic had hit America pretty hard. Yeah. And it hit my neighborhood pretty hard. And I always wanted to be a capitalist. But I got hooked on cocaine, smoking cocaine, which we now call crack. We were freebasing cocaine. And apparently I didn't get the memo. Don't get high on your own supply. And yeah, funny today. It wasn't funny then, because it led me to, at 17 years old, I had a heart attack from smoking cocaine. And it's funny though, because, it sounds bad, but it turned out to be the biggest blessing in my life, because I ended up in another facility. Because there were circumstances around, I was locked in this facility, but I was forced to go through a drug rehabilitation program. And it was in there that a guy by the name of Dave, who was a former motorcycle outlaw gang member, who had turned his life around, he really saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. And he was the one who started to teach me that my past doesn't equal my future. And basically that, everything that I blame, police, teacher, parents, everybody around me that I blame for my issues, he basically held the mirror up and said, no, it's you. It's 100% you. You made an appointment to be here. Yeah. And he always would say, that's the bad news. But the good news is you can make a new appointment and come out of here a different person. So that's really that's kind of the foundation of where things, happen. When I left that facility, I didn't have anything. I'd already destroyed, the relationships around me. I left there with, the sneakers on my feet, the jeans and the sweatshirt, and that was about it. But I had something new that I didn't have before. I had this seed planted that business entrepreneurship was my way out of my neighborhood. It was the way out of my circumstances. I didn't fully believe it at that time, but that seed was there. And later on, I wrote a book with the motivational speaker, Les Brown, called The Power of One. And Les used to say, that once the mind has expanded, it can never go back to its original dimensions. That's kind of what happened. I feel like I had that seed planted and I could never get it out. It kept popping up again, popping up. What if I actually, stayed on course? What if I stopped doing drugs? What if I stopped, being the person I was to be the person that I should be or could be or have the potential to be? And then that put me on this lifelong personal development thing and in pursuit of finances to change my circumstances. Of course, entrepreneurship became the only choice because nobody wanted to hire, ex dropout or, ex criminal, ex drug addict, all the X's you can think of. And I was being X'd from the employment world. So I had no choice. I had to create something for myself. So that's really how this whole thing started. And entrepreneurship was the one place that, it was up to me. If I failed, it was on me. If I succeeded, it was on me. I couldn't blame anybody. I couldn't blame the weather or the economy or anything else. It was 100% me. And that was the big differentiator for me. So blessing, what seemed like a curse turned out to be the biggest blessing in my life.
Yeah, I think this is very interesting because you talk about, being put in a box, and then you don't fit the regular profile of an entrepreneur. But when you talk about, because you didn't have the education and all of that, but education is the ultimate put people in a box machine. I mean, this is all you. We focus your knowledge into a very, very fine point, and then you are stuck there. And
Yeah. It's crazy because I didn't realize that until later on in life. I always thought, because I was told and programmed to believe that education was the only way, formal education was going to be the only way, because everyone else was telling me I'm a loser. I'm all, all the adjectives they used, to describe me back then.
yeah,
And then later on, I started thinking, well, thank God I didn't get that education, because I might be in a cubicle
that's
right
right.
now. I mean, I might be saving in my 401k, hoping one day, waiting for the weekends to get 2 days off, to have freedom for 2 days, and then one day to retire and then go greet at Walmart or something. I'm like,
Yeah,
so in a lot of ways, I think I end up having an advantage. I'm not encouraging kids or anything to drop out of high school. I think you still need to be smart,
yeah,
but I think we are putting people in boxes, and then they get trapped in
yeah.
those boxes, whether it's a doctor, lawyer, whatever. They might be prettier boxes,
These are the ultimate boxes.
yeah, stuck. They were stuck more than me because they had bigger
Yeah.
debts and everything else. So it's
Have
harder for them to
licensing and
transition.
all that. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, and this is the thing too. Like my sons too. I didn't want them to get a job, so they got the education. But when it was my older son, for example, studied at entrepreneurship at university, and after that, I said, well, I know it's a little bit of an oxymoron, but after that, I said, okay, well, should I get a job, or what should I do, and stuff like that? And it's like, no, you shouldn't have. Don't get a job. Don't. I didn't want him to get polluted with with the
I
cubicle
love it.
environment. So I wanted him to
I
be.
love I love the word polluted
Yeah,
because you see it. You see people. There's so much frustration in people that have been chasing the almighty dollar, climbing the corporate ladder, doing all this
yeah,
stuff, and
that's right.
frustrated, stressed out of their minds. And I see it now more than ever because I get so many people hitting me up, especially when COVID hit. So many
Yeah,
people in those corporate environments were shaken again. Like,
yeah,
what do I do? The job is shaky now. I'm not sure where to go. And
yeah.
what's interesting, where entrepreneurship always seemed like a risky thing, it's really become the opposite.
Hmm. Yeah,
Following the traditional path is really risky today.
that's right. Yeah,
Having someone else in control of your destiny, your paycheck, that type of thing, your time,
yeah.
that's scary. That's risky. And people are catching it.
Exactly. I mean, before too, like, people would work, 20, they would work like at the same company for 25 years, get their gold watch. They had the defined benefit pension plan. It was less risk then. I mean, the
Yeah.
companies would take care of you. Now we're turning more and more into a gig economy. You don't even have a full-time job anymore. And then it's all like everything is contract based or going towards that. And so yeah, you're needed one day, and then, oh, you know what, that project, we turned that off, or we canceled that project. Now you have to move on to, okay, goodbye, we'll call you if we need your help
Yeah.
again. Like, wow.
Yeah. I mean,
No loyalty.
we become a spoke in the wheel. And,
Yeah,
it's,
that's right.
and that's the thing, it's funny because we used to give, the millennial generation got such a bad rap because, they're lazy, all this stuff. What I discovered about the millennials, I said, I think the millennials got it right because they're not willing to do the things that we did that made us so miserable.
Yeah,
The majority of people, they said,
yeah,
look, the millennials said, I'd rather stay home, smoke weed, and play Xbox than go get stuck in someone else's system and be
yeah,
miserable like my parents were, and then
yeah, yeah,
end up reading at Walmart anyhow. So
yeah.
it's interesting. Now you're seeing the shift in that group.
Mhm.
They're much more entrepreneurial. They're finding all kinds of creative ways to get side gigs and side hustles
Yeah,
to take care of themselves,
yeah,
and they're doing it on their terms. So I've learned a lot from that millennial generation. It's part of the reason why I jumped back into entrepreneurship after I took about a 3-year hiatus. I had
mhm.
sold a company and just went out and partied and had a good time, and and then I started seeing the new technology, like this
Yeah,
technology, us being
yeah,
able to communicate for free anywhere in the world with as many people as we want. I mean,
yeah,
it's amazing what you can do today that wasn't available when I was coming up as an entrepreneur. So I said, look,
exactly.
I'm not going to miss this next run. I mean, there's more opportunity today than there's ever been in the history of our
Absolutely.
world.
Yeah.
And we just got to figure out where we fit in and how we're going to do it, and where our passion is, and how do we go after that in a big way.
Yeah, and same for us too. Like we, I have like a turnkey rental business, so we sell single family rentals, and then we do that out of state. I live in LA, but we do that out of state in Cleveland and Memphis. I couldn't do this business like 10 years ago. I couldn't have done this business because now we rely a lot on video phones and pictures from phone, being able to exchange that information, electronic signature, all that kind of stuff in the exchange. So it makes a huge difference, and now we can do this business, but we couldn't have done that business like 10 years ago.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah,
When you think about how fast things are moving, stuff that,
absolutely.
I mean, who would ever thought that you could use your phone, press a button, and have a car show up to come pick you up?
Yeah.
You know,
Exactly.
it's unbelievable. Who knows where this is going? That what's even with technology is advancing so fast. I mean, imagine where we're going to be in 10 years. And people got scared of technology, but technology is also, for as much as it's displaced, it's also replaced. It's also,
Yeah.
for those that are progressive and thinking and really using their head, you can carve out little niches that didn't exist before.
That's right.
And I find it exciting, exhilarating.
So yeah, I think there are a lot of opportunities. There's a lot of things that can be done. I think that but I think part of the issue, or part of the challenge, I think, for a lot of people is kind of how do you put all of that together? And I think so I want to go talk about mindset on one side of it. How do you switch from an employee mindset working for the man or the woman now, and then
sure
kind of like working
correct.
in that environment, right?
Yeah.
And then being told what to do. And then how do you go and say, okay, now I want to change my mindset. I want to go and be an entrepreneur. I want to invest and I want to do something. And I know there's a lot of opportunities. So how do you change that mindset to get there?
I think it's individual. I think every individual's got, has to make those adjustments on their own. And I think the first one was, for me, was one of my mentors by the name of Jim Rohn. Jim Rohn would talk about, like, watch out for the man or the woman that's just had enough, that's just fed up. So for him, the prerequisite for all of this, the prerequisite for building this better life, becoming an entrepreneur, living life on your terms, was to be fed up enough. And so I think that comes in different, different forms. For me, it was a drug addiction and all these things that I was just sick of myself, man. I was just sick of being this guy. Yeah. And I think for others, it might be, look, I'm sick of a boss with no integrity. I'm sick of not seeing my kids. I'm sick of, begging to take vacation or going second class. So we all have it. We just got to maybe sometimes dig and say, what am I fed up with?
Yeah.
And from there, you start shifting the mind. And for me, it was like, I caught on that it was my mindset that was really keeping me back from everything. We of course, we talked about this. Mindset is the first step to everything. It's the one component. If you can get this right, then so I do this training on, basically how to change your life. And I talk about how I changed my life because, I come from a household where my 21-year-old sister, died from a heroin overdose. Mm-hmm. My brother, who is 21, who's 2 years younger than me, has been in and out of prison, and to this day struggles with a massive, drug addiction. And so how is it one of the three, by a lot of people's measures, has, meteoric success, success like on a crazy level.
Yeah.
And the other ones don't. And now I never feel like I made it. I feel like it's a work in progress, but there is definitely a big separation between the three of us, of course. Mm-hmm. And when I look back, I realized that for me, of course, it was some things. It was part of that drug rehabilitation, being around people that saw more than me than I saw myself. Yeah. It was personal development, the right books, because in that drug rehab, Dave gave me a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Yeah.
And that thing set in motion, because I realized after reading that book, I'm a jerk. No one's going to want to be around me. I didn't want to be around me. Yeah. And so the seeds were planted that started to put me on the right path. Now, unfortunately, it didn't happen as fast as I would like it to. Yeah. But what I caught on, what happened, my results were coming from my actions, my activity, my behavior. My behavior was coming from my attitude. My attitude was coming from my expectations. My expectations were coming from my beliefs, everything I held on to. And the beliefs all started from here, from my thinking.
Yeah.
So I started teaching, especially I was doing this a lot with young people that had drug problems and were trying to turn their lives around. I said, look, you're focusing on the wrong stuff. And I know your parents are saying you need an attitude adjustment and all this
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we fill up prisons with people that were punishing behavior, but we're not focusing on the root of the problem, which in the end comes down to thinking.
Yeah.
And so if we can change the thinking, we can then change the beliefs, then change the expectations, which then change the attitude, which change the behavior and all this other stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was this kind of domino effect that I caught on to. And then I had another mentor come in my life and really taught me the slight edge philosophy, because I really believe, Eric, I thought that like it was only a certain group of people that were going to be successful. Like, you had to be born, with the Rolls Royce already in the garage. Like, there's a certain kind of dust sprinkled on some people and not on me. Well, in my neighborhood, it's a different dust. We won't talk about that. But I thought you had to have some kind of special privilege. I didn't know that you could really come up from really nothing. I mean, we live in America and we hear it all the time. You can be anything you want, but we don't. But our parents always say that, but I don't even think they believe it. It's just something that we regurgitate.
Yeah.
But when I got around these right mentors, and one of my mentors taught the slight edge philosophy, the compound effect, basically, that simple disciplines practiced every single day over a long enough period of time will lead you to success, where the opposite, of course, is failure. And all that is simple errors in judgment practice every single day. When I really got this concept down, I started reading 15 pages of a good book every day. I started really focusing on the little things I could do every day.
Yeah.
I didn't really separate myself that much the first day, the first week, even first couple of months, even the first year. For me, it took a while, but all of a sudden you could start to see people started communicating with me differently. And they said, oh, you're changing. They couldn't quite put their finger on it, but it was clearly happening because every single day I was moving the needle just a little bit. It's like if you have kids, we're around the kids all the time. They're growing. We don't notice it as much. But if you take the kids to grandma's house after not seeing for a year, you're like, holy cow, these kids got big.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what was happening for me, is I was growing internally because of the books I was reading, the people I was, associating with, and the seminars I was attending. And didn't seem like much that day, but the compound effect over a period of time had massive, massive impact.
Yeah. 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 I think the belief is a key component, definitely at the beginning, at the inception. And that's why in my book, actually, that's what I focus on initially, because you can't build anything unless you have the right beliefs, the right belief system in place. And a lot of it is kind of, and I didn't think about that. I thought about it when I was actually writing the book. I said, like, why was I thinking? Why did I not do this? Was I thinking that? And really, it's kind of strange. And then you kind of look back and look at where your beliefs are coming from. And it's from your parents initially, quite a bit. And then it's unbelievable, the things that you kind of like recollect about these beliefs from your parents is like, wow, this is incredible. Like my lack of, like trust in people in general that I had. But you can't be in business if you don't have some kind of level of trust. You have to build the trust and learn how to build trust with other people. Don't trust anybody. You're just like, and then everybody that's successful is a crook, all that kind of stuff. And you realize that, well, this is not, because they would look at somebody that, an entrepreneur that, he had a store, let's say, or a chain of stores, and then he would go bankrupt, but then he'd still have his house. He was still driving his Mercedes and all of that. Yeah. Like, well, this guy must be a crook because he lost all of that and he still has a house. And just like, no, that's because you don't know the rules of how to structure your organization to prevent, losing everything when you kind of stick your neck out from the crowd. Well, so all these things. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is an incredible point and insight, because when we see that, we believe that there's got to be something mystical, mysterious, bad, because a lot of people didn't know the rules to the game. Well, the person who started the business either knew the rules or he learned the rules along the way. Yeah, and that's just the way it is. And we get programmed and conditioned to believe that all rich people are bad. These big business owners are bad. Because it's like, how can they create so much wealth in such a short period of time, and I can barely pay my mortgage? I can barely cover my car note. So they must be doing something shady, and that becomes the mindset. And I discovered that that really wasn't, there is a formula. Unfortunately, our school system is not teaching our kids these formulas, not showing the recipes. It's funny that we
They want to
complain
put
about
you in a
entrepreneurship.
box. They want
Yeah,
to
we
put
put
you in
them in a
that box
box.
so you can work full time for somebody
Yeah,
else.
so we teach them to go to work for the guy who figured
Exactly.
out the formula, got the recipe, and we're being taught in school to go work for him, only to be frustrated and
Yeah.
all these things. And then we just take Prozac or other drugs to deal with our psyche because we're pissed off all the time.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting cycle that we go in, and I'm hoping, now we're seeing more and more people leaning towards entrepreneurship. They're catching on. I think parents are even being a lot more lenient, with, okay, I'm getting it, because kids are not stupid. When we see you lose the house, when we see you struggling to make the payments, when you see you stressed out on Sunday night because you got to go to work on Monday morning to this place you can't stand,
Yeah.
who really wants to do that? I mean, that's a cycle that most people don't want to get caught into. So I'm seeing a shift that I'm excited about. I'm seeing people way more open to at least delving in that, or at least, going in. This challenge still remains. We're not teaching it. I have to get on a podcast like this to hear it, maybe to plant the seed that's, I can learn this stuff. I can get this on my own, because but you had a kid that went to the university to get entrepreneurship. Thank God that that's happening now.
Yeah.
Because if you go back to when I was coming up, those programs didn't exist. That wasn't there at all. And now we've got more options. And of course, these podcasts, man, I wish this would have been available when I was in my 20s.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you can devour this information and you can separate yourself from the masses just with this information.
Yeah, I think the whole democratization of information and knowledge definitely is dramatic, and this is why there's a lot more people are more open. They get more ideas, and that could be why we have more independence and more entrepreneurs than we've ever had, I think. So I think that's definitely true. I think the other thing too is the entry level into these investment has really lowered significantly. I mean, before, if you wanted to invest in the stock market, well, it didn't make sense to invest if you didn't have $20,000. It didn't make sense to invest in the stock market. Now you can invest as little as $5 or $1 on Robinhood or something like that.
Yeah.
So these kinds of things. Same thing on the real estate side too. I mean, now you have crowdfunding for real estate, so you can invest as little as $1,000 on and be a non-accredited investor and get a taste of investing in real estate and build something like that.
I love that. And that's the thing. Because I've always built big affiliate programs, ambassador type programs, and that was really what made it so attractive, is that the barrier of entry was so low. I mean, you could get involved in one of my companies for under $1,000, but have a potential. We had people making $2-3 million a year from $1,000 investment. I mean,
wow,
that's significant. And then we were able to take it all over the world into different countries, and so again, you're right. There's so many options available. You're only limited by your ability to think, and you're only limited by your ability to receive and find the information. So again, there's just never been a better time to be an entrepreneur, even though there's still a lot of uncertainty in the system. But entrepreneurs find certainty in uncertain times, and that then in the end, that's it. Find a problem, find a gaping. My mentor used to say, find a gaping hole in the marketplace and then fill it better than anybody else, and you can write your own ticket. And that's in the end, that's what it's about, man. Find something that somewhere where they need it, something that maybe they don't even know they need, but maybe you were looking for something, couldn't find it. No, okay, I'll provide that. Next thing you know, you're, Zuckerberg. I mean, exactly. You know what I'm saying? Or Bezos.
Yeah. But the other thing too that I like too is the daily practice that you mentioned. So kind of like setting time aside every day to think on your own and plan and stuff like that, but also reading other things. And so once you have the mindset and you say, okay, well, now I'm open, I think I can do something else, and I kind of get rid of some of the negative behavior, negative beliefs, and then replacing them with more positive one and more constructive one. I think the daily practice is also something else that every day that you say, okay, well, I'm going to move at least a little step forward, and you build on that, and eventually you're going to get to a better place. It could be a long journey, but eventually you have a big chance of getting there, instead of not doing anything or doing anything. Oh, I'll do it next week or something like that. Get in the habit of doing it on a daily basis.
Yeah, that's the thing. When I think about like these big projects that I have, it can be overwhelming.
Yeah.
But when I start breaking them down into little things, well, okay, well, today I'm going to, if nothing else, I'll break it down in time. I'll say, today I'm going to dedicate 15 minutes, half hour, whatever it is, based on my schedule. And I'm going to focus in there or break it down based on, okay, well, like I'm building a new company right now. We're about to launch a new health and wellness company.
Yep.
And, 4 months into it, but when we first looked at it, it was this big, massive project. This is a big deal with a lot of money involved and everything. But now we're 4 months into it, and all we're doing every day is we're taking little bits and pieces. Okay, today we're focusing on getting the compensation plan program in the system. So that means I'm dealing with programmers, so I'll break it down. Today we focus on this little piece, and then it's not so overwhelming. Someone once said, "How do you eat an elephant?" Well, one bite at a time.
Yeah. So let's talk about that project. Let's talk about that project, because I think a lot of this is where I think one of the barriers. I mean, I've talked to so many entrepreneurs wannabe that have ideas. They have ideas, but they don't know how to implement these ideas. I mean, they're just like, sometimes they're not even that big businesses, or they don't know anything about the business they want to get in or whatever, but they have some barriers to kind of get started, get this idea implemented. So how do you break that down? You have this big project, and it's going to cost a lot of money and stuff like that. How do you break that down and make it happen?
Well, I think the first thing is pretty clear. Figure out what it is you want to do. Figure out, what it is that you would be willing to lose sleep over. What it is that you'd be willing to sacrifice some of the daily things you're doing, because that's going to become necessary if you're going to build a big business, really any business for that matter. So you're better off, playing in a space where, you're excited to wake up in the morning, and for me, I get caught up in this project, and I don't need to eat. I don't need to sleep. My wife has to remind me, like, hey, or I'm ready to pass out. Like I say, I don't go to sleep at night. I fall asleep, at wherever I'm at working on stuff. So first you look at the big picture, and then you figure, okay, where are my strengths? So here's the company I'm trying to launch. I would take out a piece of paper and say, here's where I know in this company, here's what I know I can do for sure. If it's marketing, accounting, just figure out where you got strengths. So, you got that covered. Now you got to figure out, okay, what are the other pieces that need to be done in order to get this thing at least started? Okay. So we need revenue. Well, okay, if I don't have we need capital, we need money. So if I don't have the capital, let me start figuring out, is it going to be a loan from somewhere? Can I raise money? Can I sell a percentage of the company? Again, it's going to depend on the idea. It's going to depend on your resources. In the very beginning, for me, nobody was going to give me money. It just wasn't going to happen. So that's why I focused so heavily in the early stages of being a distributor for other people's companies, because that's where I learned the game. And I just paid attention to everything. I paid attention to I was watching everything with my intent in my eye on one day, I'm going to run this thing. One day I'm going to build something like this. And some people, I don't know if it's out of ego or whatever, and I think they keep procrastinating because you don't have all the tools yet. You don't have the mindset. You don't have the resources. You don't have I had none of that. But over a period of time of bringing value to other people's companies, in the form of entrepreneurship, because I was an independent, so I could still work from home. I could do what I wanted. But I was so focused on learning this stuff that I became more valuable, to the point where all of a sudden now I know I could go, if I needed to, I could go raise $10 million, if I needed to.
Yeah, I totally. So this is definitely something that I also talk about in my book, and kind of like when you want to get going, I mean, you have your goal, you identify kind of like the strategy on how you're going to get there. It could be different businesses and all of that. And then, but the first thing that really to focus on is your resources. Kind of what do you have that's available to you? And it could be your capabilities, access to information, access to the right people, and all of that. And then time and money. I mean, this is exactly, what I because a lot of people, I talk a lot about real estate, and then they end up in a situation where they're chewing too much for the resources that they have available. They don't have the time to do a big apartment building and out of state that requires them to, spend like 5 hours a day or 8 hours a day on that. So why are you investing in that? It's not going to be successful. Focus on something smaller and then kind of move on from that, and then find the right strategy that works for that, and then move on. So I think this is great, because one thing that I didn't think about is that, yeah, so now you're thinking, okay, I have the resources, I have the skills and capabilities. This is, I can add value to another organization, be a distributor or be something like that, and then learn from that experience. Same thing with, other entrepreneurs, other enterprises or companies or organizations in real estate or whatever. It's like, okay, well, I have some skills that I can bring to the table. I don't have the money and all of that, but let me do a couple of projects with this company, and then and kind of like ease into it, and then move on, and then kind of get connected and all that kind of stuff. So I think
Yeah,
that's a great idea.
it's huge. For me, it was always, learning and earning, so I
Yeah,
was learning this information while I was earning money. And no matter what we have to do to earn money in the meantime,
yeah,
there's usually some type of learning experience if we utilize that. And I think one of the biggest challenges people run into, especially with smart people with degrees, I run into a lot,
yeah,
that they have things that they could trade in the marketplace. They could be
yeah,
consultants. There's all kinds of things they could do, but they take their own skills for granted. They take the thing that they do
yeah,
daily for granted because maybe they don't like it so much doing it for someone else. But there's value in a lot of these different things.
yeah,
And when we do our mentoring programs, we're teaching, especially professionals with, degrees and that they kind of take for granted, that I know you want to do something more independent. You can start doing that because
hmm,
there's someone that would pay you for the information you have outside of your job, outside of your
yeah,
marketplace. And once you start getting a taste of that money, like I always say, look, if you can make $1,000 outside of your job, you could probably make 10,000. You can make 10,000, you can make 100,000. Make
yeah,
100,000, you make $1 million. So
yeah,
once you get a little taste of it, but sometimes, it's like the Earl Nightingale had a thing on acres of diamonds.
yeah,
The guy was everywhere looking for diamonds all over the place, but right in his backyard he had acres of diamonds that he ended up selling the house, and
yeah,
someone else benefited from it. Sometimes right in our backyard we have the resources, we have the things we
yeah,
need, but we're so focused on what's across the street, what's over there,
hmm,
and we miss out on the very things that could be the foundation for us to go build something incredible.
yeah, yeah. So tell me a little bit more about your build your empire program, and I mean, this is a big focus of yours right now, I think, and you're helping lots of people. So tell us more about that.
Yeah, build your empire. Really started as a way for us to give back to young entrepreneurs. We built um, a machine that was designed to showcase world-class entrepreneurs and at the same time help to raise up the new generation of world-class entrepreneurs. So, and we've done a lot of events all over the world, Germany, you name it. We've been
Yeah,
doing events. That was kind of our model, to do these world-class events. The challenge is COVID messed up that part of it.
yeah,
But the mission hasn't changed. But we're gearing up for next year as we're seeing things. We believe things will loosen up. That
yeah,
for us, there's nothing like that live. This is great. But
hmm,
if you and I were having the same conversation in front of a live audience,
yeah.
and
Oh,
now
it'd
it's
be very different.
that's not just what you hear, it's what
Yeah,
you feel from what they're saying. You're getting that energy that it's hard to duplicate anywhere else.
exactly.
So we really love the live events. Plus, it gives a chance. Like at our events, when we bring in a big name, they're not allowed to hide. They're not. They have to walk amongst the crowd. They have to be. We
Oh,
make
nice.
we
Yeah,
make our speakers accessible. They're not allowed to sell from the stage. They have to come and bring massive value. So that's a big part of what we're doing. That's one piece with my partner Josh Denny. And
hmm,
then I'm launching a health and wellness company by the name of Snap, which we're
yeah.
using a new packaging technology and some pretty high end
So when is
we're
that going
bringing
to
science and nature
launch,
together.
that OSNAP?
Yeah, yeah.
When?
So we're right now we've got this 21-day challenge. What the whole thing is transforming minds, bodies, and bank
Yeah,
accounts.
yeah,
That's our deal. Because one thing to have some of these supplement companies kind of lead you to believe that if you take their supplements, you're going to be great.
yeah,
Everything's going to be great. But that's not necessary. There's more to it. So we're
yeah,
building this Snap active lifestyle where we're teaching people that, again, that mind body kind of connection is a big part of overall health and well-being. And so someone could be eating, broccoli and spinach every single day and still not be healthy because they're letting, stress get in the way. They're letting
yeah,
their mindset, they're not walking outside. They're not in a good environment of people lifting and equipping. You know
yeah,
what I mean? So
yeah,
we're building a community, a culture, and a compensation plan around people, product, and a process. So we've learned to use high-tech tools along with the high touch to keep everything very simple. We have an
yeah,
app that has a built-in sales funnel. So our ambassadors are simply pressing buttons, sending videos, and people are watching the videos and they're signing up and they're getting paid. So we just have this very simple process. I always talk about McDonald's. I love the McDonald's story from a scaling standpoint.
Yeah.
We all know, and McDonald's doesn't need a guy in a 3-piece suit hard closing you on a Big Mac. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's like,
that's right.
It's a very simple, systematic process, and that's what we've built inside of our company. So someone legitimately could be home, put in 5-10 hours a week to their side hustle, and pull in some pretty significant part-time income. And I always say, look, when your part-time income with us exceeds your full-time income with them, you now live in a world if I choose to, no longer in a world if I have to. So we're always helping people get closer to freedom. And we're showing people, I teach people how to get done in, 5 hours, what most people won't get done in 50 hours, how to retire in 5 years and the type of income that most people won't retire on after 50 years. And again, it's having a system, having, the right accountability, and putting all those pieces together for someone and saying, look, I know your idea of success might be different than mine. Some people want rooms filled with cash. Other people want to save the planet. So we work based on, what the individual ambassador is looking for. What's their vision of success? And let's put a plan around that and then have a simple system for driving this thing. And that's what we do over and over and over. We call it mastering the mundane. The same boring thing. We just do it over and over and over. That's how McDonald's duplicates all over the world. No fancy footwork, and that's what people get confused.
I'm a big admirer of McDonald's. I really love the company. I mean, also a big company like that, and how adaptive they are, how responsive they are to the market and changes and stuff like that. I mean, you look at COVID, how they responded to COVID. It's just phenomenal how quickly they respond to all that.
It's amazing.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Very good.
And you can find them anywhere in the world. It doesn't matter where you go today. Exactly. You can find a Big Mac somewhere in the world. Crazy.
So John, well, thank you very much. Thank you for your time. Really appreciate it. How can people get in touch with you if they want to get your mentorship or get into that some of the other programs you discussed?
Yeah, it's easy. Where I invest most of my time is on Instagram. That's the platform that just fits well for us, my wife and I. And so on Instagram, it's at John, JOHN .Malott, MALOTT. And I manage that myself. That's the one account that I manage myself. So I get back to everybody sooner or later.
Yeah.
I tell people just be patient, but sooner or later I get to everybody. And that's the best place to find me.
Well, you've been pretty responsive, so that's good.
I try.
Yeah, so that's good.
Because there's nothing worse than, the guy in the ivory tower, that's too good. Because that used to frustrate me. When I was coming up, I couldn't get access. I never forget one time I got into an elevator with a guy I really, really respect. It was by chance.
Yeah.
And he was in the elevator and we were both going up. We only had a minute or two, but he wouldn't give me the time of day, man. He would barely even look at me. And I wasn't much of anything at that point, but I said to myself, if I ever hit that kind of status, I will never be like this guy. So I lost respect for him that day because I realized I felt like it was a big front for him. It was a big show. And then when he got around people, he just made me feel smaller than I already felt going into it. And, my mission is, ego is the enemy, check the ego, understand that, we're all trying to get somewhere. If I can light your candle with mine, it's not taking anything away from my candle.
Yeah.
And, so.
No, that's true. I feel the same way too. Like that's why I'm sharing a lot. That's why I'm sharing this video. I'm also launching a new channel as well, a new YouTube channel, also to share more like topical information. And this channel is going to be kind of like more for interviews and all of that with successful entrepreneurs. And I mean, I want to share a lot because I think for me, I think it's people have to get there. They have to get into financial independence, financial freedom. It's inevitable. I mean, you can't rely on your pension plan anymore. And you can't, the savings, the 401k saving. I mean, the people that are, there was a study that was done, and people that are 55 and over, they have saved $8,000 towards their retirement on average. So that's not enough.
It's not enough. No, it is not.
So, so something needs to happen. So I want to kind of like give everybody a sense of urgency that, they need to take action and, not hoping for the best that something is going to happen to them to help them out. So,
Well, appreciate you, brother. Thanks for having me, man.
Thank you, John.
Thank you for listening to Break Away from the Rat Race with your host, Eric Martel. If you want to share your story and experience with our listeners, please message us on Facebook at Break Away from the Rat Race. Also, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and our podcast on iTunes.